Thank you very much, Ben. First, I'd like to say what a real pleasure it is to have an opportunity to say a few words about the new Mrs. Chapman. And I'm especially happy to be talking to you all on her wedding day. Hasn't it been brilliant so far? I think you'll all agree that Ben and Katie have done a fabulous job of planning, cocktail tasting, organising, cocktail tasting, preparation, cocktail tasting, arranging and cocktail tasting to make sure we all enjoy their special day with them. Now, I was fortunate enough to meet Katie through a work colleague when I moved from Newport in South Wales to Cheltenham about 10 years ago. Having grown up in Newcastle and then spending several years in South Wales, I hadn't been aware that places like Regency Cheltenham Spa actually existed, and it was an absolute revelation to me. I was lucky that Katie and I hit it off, and she soon helped me realise that really the only differences between Cheltenham and the industrial centres of my past were that women wore their dresses about 6 inches longer and that people, even the men, tended to drink wine. With Katie by my side to teach me those subtle sophistications, I quickly felt at home. Now, as many of you know, Katie has an enormous capacity for fun. Katie has a special way of making the most mundane task seem like a special occasion, and I'm fairly sure that in the past we have almost found ourselves celebrating opening a new packet of frozen peas. She is generally an absolute delight to spend time with. I remember a holiday that Katie and I took to visit my sister in Dubai. We booked some appropriately priced flights with Royal Brunei Airlines. Have any of you flown Royal Brunei? Yes. No, yeah. You only do it once. I'm surprised. Yeah. It's a once in a lifetime thing. We booked a 3 AM coach to Heathrow and gradually got more excited. When we arrived at Heathrow at around 7 o'clock in the morning, we found our flight was delayed by 10 hours. Well, don't worry, it was fine. We did the only thing 2 self-respecting girls could do, and we headed to Richmond upon Thames and waited for a pub that served a good Bloody Mary to open. Some hours later we returned to Heathrow very much more relaxed, and the only passengers actually looking forward to the 8-hour flight. While in Dubai, we decided we would like to visit the epic water park Atlantis. We asked my much more sensible sister what it was like, and she said that it was okay for a couple of hours. Not exactly the rave review we expected, but we thought we'd give it a go anyway. So we arrived at the park when it opened and familiarised ourselves with the surroundings, wondering which ride to go on first, whether we might want lunch, and most importantly, whether our bikinis were secure enough for a strict Muslim regime. We found a selection of water slides which offered a double rubber ring experience, where 2 passengers could whiz round together in a rubber ring shaped like a figure 8. With Katie in the back loop of the 8 and me in the front, we spent the whole day racing around the rapids and up and down the slides. And when a bumpy bit of slide was ahead of us, I would call out, "Bum up, Katie!" so she could avoid unsightly bruising to her bottom. And it's a phrase that Katie now applies to many situations with great results. We eventually left Atlantis as the sun was going down and headed directly across town to the extremely luxurious and ever so glamorous Harvey Nichols Shisha Lounge, where we spent the rest of the evening looking sunburned, smelling of chlorine and becoming a bit too giggly. It's Katie's appreciation of the ridiculous that makes it such a pleasure to count her as a friend. So now on to Katie and Ben. These two make such a fantastically stylish couple. Their attention to detail is amazing, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. But I remember when Katie and Ben first started seeing each other, generally spending more and more time at things where the other one might be present. Katie and I had discussed, probably at some considerable length, the sort of men we might like to marry, and Katie was absolutely adamant that there was no way a potential husband would be interested in football. So Ben, now you're married, it might be a good time to break the news about that whole Liverpool thing. I had an inkling that things were getting serious between Ben and Katie when two things happened. Number one, after years spent tottering around in high heels, even to walk the dog, Katie started wearing lower-heeled shoes. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that Ben isn't really tall. It's just that Katie decided she was going to wear different shoes. And number two, now this one's a little bit more subtle. In January 2010, having been on a few proper dates with Ben, Katie announced that she wanted to be engaged by the end of 2010. And let me tell you, November and December 2010 were a very anxious time. Katie moved in with Ben to his house in Leckhampton in early 2011. And looking back, I'm reminded of a quote from the writer Jean Kerr, who said something like, "Moving in with a man is like buying something you've been admiring in a shop window. You may love it, but once you get it home, you find it doesn't really go with anything in the house." The problem for Ben was that Katie decided he didn't really go with anything in his own house. Anyway, now Katie and Ben are very happily settled in at 5 Great Western Terrace, with Katie's dog Tilly, the 2 guinea pigs, and Ben's extensive range of Apple gadgetry, and all within a 3-minute walk of the Waitrose wine island. Both Katie and Ben are supremely organised. In fact, Ben is the only person I know who thinks filling the car with petrol is an activity worthy of planning into a weekend. They are also both always immaculately turned out. And Katie made it officially acceptable to put in a full head of Velcro rollers when on a beach camping holiday a couple of years ago, putting the rest of us girls who were taking a more au naturel approach to absolute shame. And both share an incredible eye for detail, which I mentioned earlier. This mind-boggling attention to detail is best illustrated by a story from December 2010, when Katie unleashed Christmas tree shopping on Ben. To most of us, we would look for a tree which is A, reasonably straight, B, has branches capable of holding some baubles, and C, will fit into the desired room, perhaps with a bit sawn off the bottom. This is absolutely not the right approach. On a very cold Saturday in December, Katie and Ben surveyed every tree in Gloucestershire to make sure they had the right one, even splitting up and travelling in separate cars in case any garden centres. In case any garden centres. In case any garden centres might dare to close before the tree had been selected. When a suitable tree had been located and purchased, Ben was so exhausted he had to retire to a darkened room for 2 days to fully recover. But the tree was But more seriously, these two do truly complement each other, and they have a real respect for the strengths the other brings to their relationship, and that respect should form the basis of a long and happy life together. So to Katie and Ben, the new Mr. and Mrs. Chapman, let's all raise our glasses and say, well done to you both. You're a wonderful couple, and we all wish you so much love and happiness in the future, and all the very, very best in your marriage. To the happy couple. Oh, was it absolutely?